Howdy, folks. I'll be with you in just a moment. That's our modern Air Force. Now, that's quite a plane. Just too bad we don't have more of them. But it's not the only good one we have. There's the B-36, F-86, F-84, F-90, F-94, and several others. These form the backbone of our present-day Air Force. Quality is high, but quantity is lacking. But let's get to the business at hand. The Air Force Association has requested that I sit in today and in my own way attempt to tell you about the 1951 convention and reunion. Now, being a firm believer in AFA's air power doctrine, anything that I might add comes with the conviction born of belief. Now, perhaps some of you might ask, what is air power? Well, to really tell the story, let's go back a few years to the last days of World War II. The date is March 1945. The place, the bitter road to Tokyo. And this is air power, getting at the enemy where he lives and where he works, to kill, cutting off his munitions and supplies before they can be brought to bear on friendly forces. In World War II, the United States excelled in this type of fighting. We had better planes, more of them, and our airmen learned to fly and service them better than any other airmen in the world. And this is the end of the road. Surrender came on August 5th, 1945. For the first time in recorded history, one nation had conquered another without setting foot on its native soil. So what was done with air power when we finished with it in 1945? We shined it up, covered it up, put the whole thing in mothballs. A wonderful way to keep out the weather, but no protection against the advances of science. At the very same time we were wrapping up our air power like this, science was unwrapping a whole new era. The jet age. Air speeds were going up 20 miles per hour per month. Ranges extended hundreds of miles each year. Never before had the science of aviation made such strides. Having preserved our air power in a thin coat of plastic, we then set out on 5 years of economy budgets. Budgets which took little interest of the new jet age and the rewards it offered for those with time and money to explore it. Budgets which very nearly closed the aircraft industry. Budgets which cut our Air Force in being below the safe level for even a holding operation had there been major enemy attacks. Here are your results. We're now scrambling to make up for lost time. And if we do, maybe we will have learned a lesson. A lesson that those of us in the Air Force Association have been trying to teach for 6 years. Shortly after the last war, some of America's most respected airmen, men like Hap Arnold, Tooey Spotts, Jim Doolittle, C.R. Smith, and many others, got together and formed the Air Force Association. It now numbers some 50,000 Air Force veterans. The objectives are completely selfless. The AFA has no personal, political, or commercial axes to grind. It seeks no privileges. If I may, I'd like to read you a portion of AFA's Constitution. I just happen to have a copy with me. The association is formed to preserve and foster the spirit of fellowship among former, present, and future members of the United States Air Force, and to provide an organization through which they may unite in the fraternal bonds of comradeship, to perpetuate the tradition of the United States Air Force to educate its members and the public at large in the proper development of air power, and to keep them abreast of new accomplishments in aviation, to assist in every way possible in keeping the United States Air Force adequate, strong, and powerful for the defense of our country, to encourage the maintenance of international peace and security, and to help develop friendly relations among those nations, based on respect for the principle of equal rights to all people. Most of the year, the Air Force Association seeks these objectives through the activities of about 100 local squadrons in this and neighboring countries. And then once a year, AFA members rendezvous in one spot for their reunion and convention to review the things accomplished in the past year and make plans for the year ahead. And of course, as is always the case when airmen get together, they seek out old buddies, fight the war again, and generally live it up a little. The 1951 rendezvous city was Los Angeles. Convention headquarters was the Ambassador Hotel. The registration desk saw a steady stream of delegates from every state, plus Puerto Rico, Canada, Mexico, and Hawaii. The fellow in Crosby's coat greeting the old man is Hal Stewart, who was elected president of AFA for the coming year. This, I guess you'd say, comes under the heading of living it up. That's Jim Jabara, America's first jet ace, who looks about as rough at sea level as he is at 40,000 feet. But for every hour of relaxation, there was another one of serious business. A dozen committees in a dozen different rooms were meeting to draft important air power resolutions. Jacqueline Cochran, wartime chief of the Women's Air Force Service Pilots, outlines an energetic program for the women of AFA. And of course, the election of officers is one of the most important items on the agenda. This year, AFA delegates elected Hal Stewart to succeed Bob Johnson as president. By the second day, the wartime unit reunions were in full swing. One of the highlights of each convention is the Air Power Banquet, held this year in the Coconut Grove. Giving the keynote address was Air Secretary Thomas K. Finletter.
The Air Force Association, on its 5th anniversary, is entitled to pride in its accomplishments. Your conviction that an adequate air power is essential to our national security and that the creation and maintenance of this air power is everybody's business led to the formation of this association. You set yourselves the goal of improving the public's understanding and support of a sound air power policy for the nation. Your contributions to this end are evident in current expressions of opinion by the leadership and the rank and file of the American people on the subject of air power and its relation to the security of the free world.
One spot of the 51 convention had to be picked above all others. I guess it would be the wing-ding and Air Force pageant at Hollywood Bowl. Things got underway that night when probably the largest collection of million-dollar talent ever assembled came on stage as a salute to AFA.
Here they are, fellas, right out of their straitjackets. I give you now Mills, Kirk, and Martin.
Thank you very much.
There's Mills and there's Kirk.
Nice to
Mr.
know
Jerry
you,
Lewis
Martin.
and Mr. Denish Martin.
We're very happy to be here.
Thank you very much.
We
Now,
appreciate the fact that you managed
Isn't
to
that
be here
fine?
tonight.
Thank you
and
very
it's
much.
very seldom that we get the chance. Look out, you munched it up.
You had it cut from the inside. Now,
From
let me
the
tell you.
inside.
Cut from the
How
inside. How about that? Would you say a few words? That's enough. Thank you.
Now, we'd
I
like
want
to
tell you
say
a
that
funny
we're
thing
very...
happened on the way to the studio.
I like it.
I always do all the talking for the act here.
Why don't you sing a few things?
Well, I don't want...
Thank you. You've been fine. Now we'll sing. How about you?
Sure, all right, thank you. May I get your picture? Hold it.
There's an old man called the Mississippi. That's the old man that I long to be. Now what does he care there if the land is free.
Here we are, ladies and gentlemen, three Andrews sisters. Isn't it swell? Here at the Air Force Wing, Ding. There's Patty, Laverne, and Maxine. Namely, Miss Lana Turner and Miss Jane Wyman. And you all know me. Crosby's son.
The most unusual time. I keep feeling my temperature fine. If my heart won't behave in the usual way, well, there's only one thing to say. It's a most unusual day.
Here we are with Miss Rosalind Russell and Mr. Cary Grant.
I saw you out here with all those two beautiful blonde girls and this white dog. Is it all right if I have a little black dog?
Oh, you just look beautiful. You look beautiful. You're in contrast tonight. And I think you look grand in your stage clothes. I think they're nice.
Turn all the way around.
What time do you have to get back in the window? Fellas, one of the most beautiful gals in Hollywood, in and out of the water, right here. Esther Williams, and also, of course, that grand fellow of the screen, Mr. Walter Pigeon.
Have you ever seen me in the water?
Oh, you're divine, I said.
Yeah.
Underwater, they tell me you're grand.
They
I
tied
think-
me off for tonight.
Off we go into the wild blue yonder, flying high into the sky. Help, help, help. Off we go. Wait a minute, Bob. There they go now. That's Kelowna's song from Alaska. Yes, they were all over here before. I'm glad they're on our side, aren't you? You bet.
Then came one of the most dramatic pageants in Hollywood Bowl history. The story of the birth and growth of aviation. From its humble beginnings in this bicycle shop to the upper limits of the atmosphere. A story that made a point of reminding those who saw it of the skepticism aviation has had to buck since the airplane's first flight. Skepticism stronger than any headwind. Only a small group of airmen, some of them here tonight, had caught the vision of a great new concept in future warfare. They alone carried on a fight against the opposition of conventional strategists. One of these men, whose name will live forever in the roster of martyrs and patriots, was Billy Mitchell. But his voice was a lone cry in the wilderness of unrealistic thinking. However, he was not entirely alone. He lighted fires from his own bright vision in the hearts and minds of a small band of Army flyers who risked their careers to keep faith in Mitchell's ideal. It was not until World War II that the general public got an inkling of the true impact of air power. Our air power in World War II started 7 years too late. It was only by the grace of God that we were given time to organize and prepare after the war had begun. No one who saw this pageant will ever forget the story of this uphill fight against skepticism, inattention, and complacency. As Louis B. Mayer said, I wish our political leaders had been in Hollywood Bowl tonight. They'd be inspired to feel as I do about the Air Force. As the evening drew to a close, just one ceremony remained. Presentation of the Air Power Awards, symbolic of outstanding achievement in fields of air power endeavor. To Lieutenant General Curtis E. LeMay and the personnel of the Strategic Air Command for balancing the power, the H. Arnold Award as Aviation's Man of the Year. To Alexander Peter Seversky, the Air Force Association Arts and Letters Award. Captain James Jabara of the USAF, the first jet ace the world has ever known, an inspiration to his colleagues and free men everywhere in the fight against aggression. The Flight Award. To Dr. George E. Valley, Jr., the Science Award for development of a modern air defense system, changing the entire concept of continental air defense. The elder statesman of American air power, General Carl A. Spaatz, for distinguished service toward the peace and security of the United States, the Air Age Award. And what does it all amount to? Well, aside from the fun of meeting old friends and making new ones, perhaps the best answer is in the statement of policy drafted during the 1951 convention. We have neither the responsibility nor the capability to determine how many aircraft, airmen, or groups shall constitute the United States Air Force. Our special interest is that the national understanding of the role of air power be sound, and if it is adequate, numbers and strength will be provided. The role of air power is to gain and hold control of the air, to destroy the war-making capability of the enemy, to isolate the battlefield and deprive the enemy of reinforcement and supply, to support the ground soldier as he moves into battle, and to provide air transportation for essential personnel and material. That is a variety of tasks, for air power is the most versatile of our weapons. The total of our air power strength must conform to the soundest conception of air power employment. That is the professional continuing responsibility of those who form the policies for the Air Force. The pattern must be formed by them, and it must be followed. We pledge our support and aid in this important undertaking.
My name is Tom Lanphier. I am chairman of the board of the Air Force Association, and I'm speaking to you for two purposes. First, to thank the people who made the film you've just watched, Jim Gaylord and his group, and Reed Hadley, who narrated it. On behalf of the officers, Harold Stewart, the president, and the members of the Air Force Association, to invite those of you who are not already members of our outfit to join us in our program. Any of you who are citizens of the United States are eligible for membership in one form or another of the Air Force Association. If you're a veteran of the Air Force, either World War I, World War II, or at any period between or since, you're eligible as an active voting member. If you're a member of the Civil Air Patrol, the Air ROTC on any college campus, you're eligible as a cadet member. If you're now on active duty with the Air Force, you're eligible as a service member. And even though you've had no military service of any sort, but are simply a civilian interested in the national defense and air power's role in it, you are eligible and more than welcome to participate with us in this program as associate members. Our membership in the Air Force Association doesn't entitle you to any particular personal privilege. We do not solicit bonuses and so forth. For our members, we leave that to the veterans organizations who are adequately formed and practicing in those areas. The only two things you gain from membership with us are, number one, the general privilege of helping serve as best we all can for the national defense in the area of air power. And number two, a monthly issue of the Air Force magazine, which is by all odds the most authoritative voice being published today on the subject of air power. If you are interested in joining us, please write to 1424 K Street, Northwest, Washington, D.C., for further details. As the Secretary of the Air Force remarked in the film you've just seen, We consider air power everybody's business. Those of us who are active members have learned the hard way how important aircraft in being at the right time and place can be to the national defense. And since, as we who are members of the Air Force Association have good reason to know, air power has reached that status in this atomic age wherein your hometown or our hometowns may well be the Pearl Harbor of this decade, we suggest it's to your personal interest to join with us in furthering the air power program. To the extent that this nation has in being, of the very latest quality, in time and in the right place, enough airplanes to defend us against any possible air attack. We invite you, therefore, to join with us in doing whatever we all collectively can for air power for our national defense. Thank you for your attention.